Not only from the album Hot August Night, but also a part of Once Upon a Time in Hollywood. This is going to be a spoiler conversation.
Yes.
We're all big Quentin Tarantino fans here, and we've been looking forward to this movie for at least a year, and we want to be able to discuss it freely. So if you don't want a spoiler, turn off now. I'm going to give another spoiler alert in a little bit. But I remember before Gail said this, I asked you guys to each give your letter grade. Do you remember that?
I believe I gave it an A.
A.
An A.
Earl?
I gave it an A minus.
A minus?
I gave it a B plus.
And a B plus. Spoiler alert, spoiler alert. If you were to do a letter grade here, Gail, and I realize it's difficult to give a letter grade to a Tarantino movie.
It is.
But what letter grade would you give?
I'm not only thinking of it as a movie, but I'm also comparing it to his own movie. So I'm taking all of this into consideration, and I would call this a C.
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 Ooh, a harsh C.
Harsh C.
All right, so spoiler alert, spoiler alert. We're going to talk about this movie with all the spoilers. I'm going to give you a couple seconds to get out. Do 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 do. Spoiler alert. Do 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 do. Giving out the details of Once Upon a Time in Hollywood. And a hot August night. By the way, I think that might have been my favorite song to visual. That for some reason, just seeing Brad Pitt driving down the road.
Yeah.
All right, spoiler alert. Now it'll be spoiled for you if you haven't seen it yet. I will just say this. I think, before we get into this, that the world should be happy that we do have a Brad Pitt in it. You know what I mean?
Wow.
There's just something so fucking great about him.
Yeah. I want to just get this out of the way. I felt like his looks were so distracting for me because I would head into the plot of the movie and then I would look over and be like, how old is that dude? That's insane. Like, it was so distracting. I thought to myself, how do most men pay attention to films with just like lady eye candy all the time?
Well,
because it was crazy.
There's no woman that's as attractive as Brad Pitt, so it's not difficult.
Good point.
Chris, you went A.
Yes.
You were the highest grade? Yeah.
Highest grade,
You were the
yes.
highest grade. Why'd you give it an A?
I loved Brad Pitt and Leonardo DiCaprio. I thought that the story itself was great. I love that it's alternate history take on things. I like when he's done that before. I enjoyed that very much. I enjoyed the film immensely.
All right. Pretty generalized. Earl, you gave him what, an A minus?
I gave it an A minus.
What did you think overall?
I loved it. It kind of went against everything. You kind of have DiCaprio, who's arguably the biggest star on the planet, playing a guy on the downside, and having Brad Pitt basically play a loser in a lot of ways because he's a stuntman that's not getting work, and yet it works. And the dialogue, the flow, it's kind of like a laid back California day. And then you have the build up to the actual attempted attack is, you're sitting there, you're just like, gripping your seat. You couldn't, and the tension was great. And again, I like the alternate take. Love the movie.
I will say this before we go on, and maybe it's just because of my age, and that was the big murder of my lifetime. I was almost offended by the alternate fucking take.
Really?
To me, the idea was so fucking Marky Mark after 9/11, when Marky Mark said if I was on that plane, it wouldn't have happened, that when I saw what they did, acting like, hey, if you guys were just a little more badass, this wouldn't have went down.
Yeah.
I was like, how fucking dare you? Now, having said that, it's Tarantino. You were right. He did this with Hitler. That didn't bother me. Why did this? I don't know.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? It's a very interesting fucking idea. But I was enjoying the movie up to that point, but still wondering, what the fuck is this supposed to mean?
Yeah.
What is this movie even about? Vito, you gave it the roughest of all. I don't know why one of them doesn't come in here when you knew what kind of thing we were going to do. Why were you were the B plus, right?
Yeah. Yeah, it's because I liked the movie overall, but the first hour of the movie, I felt like there wasn't really a plot. It was kind of just looking at these characters and a bunch of scenes that it gave you a little more than you even needed. I don't think you needed every single Rick Dalton thing. I don't think you needed every single Brad Pitt thing. My favorite thing...
I felt like I got less than I needed, particularly when we don't find out whether Brad Pitt killed his wife or not.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And that would fucking certainly change the way you look at this fucking character. Right? Is he a murderer or did an accident happen? And I think they lean towards he got sick of her fucking whining shit.
Yeah.
And put a fucking arrow in her, which is somewhere in between a bad old joke and truly offensive. You know what I mean? Yeah. Like, because you got to figure Tarantino's making this movie in 2019, knowing everything that's going down. And all he's saying is, to me, wasn't the world a better place when we had the studios running things and people did what they were told to do? And the whole anti-hippie thing, where they're just disgustingly talking about hippies and even acting like the Mansons were hippies when clearly they weren't a fucking peace and love thing. They were a cult.
Right.
Now, here's another thing that got to me. Why so many fucking crane shots?
Yeah.
Why are we looking down on these characters throughout the movie? I never heard anybody else talk about that.
Yeah, that is a good point. There's a ton of shots where you're looking down on the action or looking down on the main characters. For me, the reason I gave the C grade, I think you had some really phenomenal performances. I thought that Leo's performance in particular was fantastic in certain moments.
Chewing up scenery, you mean?
Yes.
Yeah.
I do think
I mean, that's what we call a great performance, is a guy throwing fucking,
I thought it was a great performance. I thought that Brad Pitt was great. I think it's visually beautiful. I think he has a lifetime of work now. He knows how to put a movie together. You know what I mean?
Right.
Like he, it clearly was a beautiful looking movie. But I didn't like the rewriting history. And I actually didn't like it when he did it with Hitler.
Right.
It wasn't like I was offended or appalled. I was just like, I don't get that. I don't know
it
why
turns it into a cartoon movie.
Right.
Like everybody who loves that thing, eventually the movie started, Inglourious Bastards. You feel like, okay, I'm watching a World War II movie, but you're kind of reading a weird comic book by the time you get to the end.
I thought that there was a very strange message in there in which we're to believe that the murderers are sitting in the car, that the Manson family's sitting in the car, and they're like, let's murder the people who made us violent. So this is like the blaming the movie violence.
Right.
And then they were punished for believing that, right? So he's like, I'll give you something to be violent about, basically, is the message there. And, as far as the violence that you see, again, to me, it's cartoonish because in actuality, it was so much more horrific than what you see. So I definitely wasn't just...
You mean the actual tape?
The actual murder is so horrific to me that I was kind of sweating thinking, man, I don't know if I'm going to be able to handle watching this girl murdered, pregnant. That's going to be difficult. So it definitely wasn't necessarily, just my own being offended by the violence of it. Although I will tell you, I did see it with a movie theater that not only was happy, they were like laughing and clapping and like they were psyched, and it was just kind of an interesting thing to watch. I understand like these are supposed to be the bad guys, but that to me is the horror of the actual murders is like the bad guys don't get it.
Yeah.
that's not what happens. So to me, and like I said, I did really enjoy those two characters. I think I could have watched a movie where the two of them were making bad spaghetti westerns in Italy, and I think I would have had a more enjoyable experience. But I don't think I understand what his message was using the Manson murders as, something to say about Hollywood. I didn't understand what his message was there.
No, I really don't get what his message was. I also don't get, when I see people writing, oh, this was the golden era of Hollywood. No, it was in between the golden era and the very beginning of the 70s. If you have to look, this was the era that they suddenly handed this movie over to kids coming out, the movie business.
Right.
So you got Scorsese and all those people who kind of saved the movie business.
Sure.
By the way, talking about these TV shows as if they were great, I'm about the same age as Tarantino, so I saw the same shows that he was referencing when I was a little kid, and they stink. You know what I mean? Those Westerns stink.
Yeah.
You wouldn't want to watch those Westerns.
Yeah.
If you look at the number of TV shows from the 60s that you would look back on and say, oh, this was good, it's probably Honeymooners, maybe some Star Trek, maybe Twilight Zone and Dick Van Dyke. It's not,
right. None
of the Westerns were great. They were, paint by the numbers thing. So I don't know what his point was there.
I also just thought, I understand that it's a rewriting of history, and it's a kind of a fantasy of the look of what he thinks this is. But I thought it was very strange to completely cut out race and the racial motivation behind the Manson murders. I feel is a bit insulting too, right? That being a factor doesn't come up at all. It's just doesn't. It's not even discussed.
Yeah, it's quite frankly. Here's the thing. Tarantino gets better as a director, I think, but he gets worse as a writer.
Yeah, look, to me, his dialogue in a lot of his films, most of his films, are what I really love about his movies.
Right.
Yes, he has stylized things, but to me, I always felt like his dialogue is what attracted me to it. So if you take that out of the factor, and which I think it really was in this movie, I think you lose a lot.
Yeah, I don't know why he didn't go for the cool dialogue. I really don't, because he writes it better than anyone else. And again, this here you are, you're fucking Quentin Tarantino. I always assumed that he liked Bruce Lee. He sets Bruce Lee up like he's a fucking dick.
I don't get that.
Yeah, I don't get that at all.
I really don't understand what the purpose was of that. And maybe that has to do with the difference between movie violence and real violence. But if it's about real violence, then why would Brad Pitt's character be a good fighter? You know what I mean?
Well, they said he was a war hero. Brad Pitt's character was the real American, doesn't get appreciated, and he was going to come through even when he was on acid.
Yeah. Bruce in Richmond. Bruce, you're on Bennington.
Good afternoon, folks.
Hey, buddy.
I hope
Hey,
everybody's
how's it
happy
going?
today. It's going well. I just go back to the title of the movie because we really enjoyed it. It's Once Upon a Time in Hollywood. Just enjoy it. The ending,
look,
we all thought it was going to be a different
Can I tell you something? Save that shit for the fucking superhero movies. Let's take Tarantino seriously. He's fucking great.
Yeah. I understand it's a fictional film and people put all sorts of fictional moments into real historical moments. But, like Phantom Menace is a fairy tale. That doesn't mean I have to say, oh, look, it's not supposed to be believable, so who cares if it has bad dialogue or I don't understand the plot.
You have every other movie that we can treat like tissue paper. I don't want to... There's certain directors that we're going to hold to higher standards. And I've heard people say, it's a fairy tale. That's why called Once Upon a Time in Hollywood. A fairy tale has to have a fucking theme and a payoff.
All of them do. And all of them, even if they're silly and absurd, have, revenge or love or something at the core of the story. And I don't think that was necessarily clear in any way.
I think that's the problem that you're trying to figure out. What are you saying to us, dude?
Yeah.
What the fuck are you saying? Like in the thing, right, where he calls the Manson guy Dennis Hopper. Dennis Hopper just directed the fucking biggest indie film.
Yeah.
In 1969.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like everybody was blown away.
Yeah.
But you know what I mean? Like it would be like, here's your insult, calling a black guy Dave Chappelle. You know what I mean? Oh,
right.
You're going to compare me to a genius? I don't know how to take that poorly. I don't know why I don't have Earl in here. And, I want to get the opinion of the guys because they...
Yeah.
And by the way, I might be coming off like I fucking hate the film. I've seen it twice.
Right.
My biggest problem is I didn't get where he was coming from.
Earl, I'm interested. Did it bother you the way I said it bothered me about having race not discussed at all when the Manson murders were racially motivated?
Didn't bother me at all because, again, they were in this very specific bubble, and blacks in Hollywood still were kind of outside looking in on that bubble. So to be in that very specific period, of course.
But there's almost like they're saying this was from a golden age. How is that a golden age?
Right.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, how is that better? And it all ends sweetly somehow, which is strange.
Yeah.
To me.
Well, and even like Leo's character being excited to get the chance to speak to Sharon Tate, right?
When Sharon Tate wasn't that big of a deal.
Right.
Sharon Tate became a big deal after she was murdered.
Right.
But she was, at best, a B actress who married a guy who was going to represent New Hollywood, not the old Hollywood.
Right.
So
maybe that has something to do with that's truly what those people wanted anyway, was to move into whatever the new thing was. I don't know. Maybe I'm looking into that more. Matt in Florida. Matt, we're talking about Once Upon a Time in Hollywood.
Gail, you're my daughter's spirit animal. Remember that?
Oh, yes, I do remember. Margaret?
Yes, Margaret. That's awesome. That scene at the ranch, man, I was more confused by that. Like, that should have been a quintessential Tarantino scene in the movie, and the dialogue and the pacing was really, really weird. I'd love to hear you guys take on that.
He has been known to do that, where he makes you think you're going to see something, and then you don't. I mean, to me, there was more tension to that fucking scene than to when they actually took on the Manson family, which...
Yes, and there was.
Yeah. Was played really, really odd. And, I don't know why. I swear to God, the first thing that fucking dawned on me was Marky Mark saying that dumb thing. And that's what, to me, was the fucking hollowest thing from this.
Marky Mark saying if he had been on one of the planes on 9/11, one of them, by the way, 9/11 wouldn't have happened.
Right.
So somehow maybe even stopping all of the planes with his.
Yeah, why don't we each have a flamethrower at our fucking house? But it's not even like he let the Tate party fucking fight back. You know what I mean?
Right.
It was these two dudes that fucking represented, the whole Clint Eastwood, Steve McQueen way of doing stuff. Now, some people were offended by the Sharon Tate character, and I thought that she came across as a sweetheart. And unlike a lot of people, I have seen the Sharon Tate movies. She wasn't a big actress or anything.
Right. So people were kind of offended by her being portrayed as vapid or
not really getting to speak much, not
Right.
really
Yeah.
being. It was almost being coming across that
Right.
somehow Tarantino is anti-woman, which I don't believe. I think he did want to set her up as if she was a fairy tale princess,
Yeah.
you know, and then have these two knights save her.
Yeah, I mean, I have wondered how much is Tarantino affected by just current conversation, certain things that people probably wouldn't be cool hearing, and I thought it was, his handling of race and women both. I was wondering how much that has to just do with the climate right now.
Yeah, it literally does have to do with the climate. And that's the weird thing about any time that you make a movie, you make it in this time.
Yeah.
You know?
Bob in Denver, you're on Bennington.
Hey guys, how you doing today?
Hey, how's it
Good.
going, Bob?
So I think that Tarantino was attracted to. He grew up on the films that we grew up on 45, and the idea that I think he fell in love with these kind of weird slow moments that were in 70s films where it seemed like kind of superfluous or outside of the plot, but just kind of left you with a little bit of a feeling in one way or the other. That I feel like a lot of the kind of unexplainable stuff he does is attributed to that. I don't know that every single piece of the puzzle is designed to add up to something, like he has a greater message. It might just be that he's telling a story and that these are some of the frills surrounding it. With Brad Pitt's character, when we don't know if he killed the wife or not, they just introduced the guy as a driver and as a stuntman, and you don't know that he's this grade A badass until they slowly start introducing this stuff, and you're like, oh shit, this guy can handle himself. Wow, he just held his own with Bruce Lee. And then when it comes down to it's a do-or-die situation, we know that he's got the chops to pull this off.
But think of how he did it. He had a fucking trained dog, and then he busted a woman up. You know what I mean? Like, it wasn't
Right.
a great
That is true.
fight
Yeah.
fucking scene. It was almost like he was less than.
I also I don't have any problem with slow moving beginning. I like
Me
that
neither.
kind of
There was
pacing.
plenty of things that I loved.
Yeah, I like that kind of pacing. I like that kind of character stuff. Scenes that seem to go nowhere, but what they're really doing is setting up a tone and they're setting up a person.
Yeah, let me ask this, because so much of this was shot like in the TV show. We're watching the TV show being shot, right? Except for we weren't. We were watching the TV show. There was one long thing that you would have had to cut on as they come in from the outside. And I'm like, why have we now jumped into the TV show rather than on the TV set?
Yeah.
You know what I mean? There's like a double fucking fantasy there.
Yeah, that's very true. John in New Jersey.
Yeah, I just want to make the point that Brad Pitt didn't fight Bruce Lee, that he was sent home by Leo to fix the antenna on the roof, and once he gets up to the roof, he starts to fantasize about if he would have been in the show Green Hornet and he would have kicked Bruce Lee's ass, just like everybody fantasized about kicking Bruce Lee's ass back then.
Well, but then why was he kept off the other thing?
That was a straight up flashback.
Yeah.
And then,
Yeah.
so then it comes to, and then you realize the flashback is like, oh yeah, he's right. He was like, yeah,
Yeah.
I get why he wouldn't fucking hire me.
Right. He even
said,
said,
"Oh, yeah."
something like that.
Yeah.
I think he said
Exactly.
oh yeah or something.
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah.
he's remembering oh, this is the reason is because I've done things like this
Because
before
I
on
beat
set.
up Bruce
Yeah.
Lee.
Yeah. So I know that there was some people who had some confusion about that.
I didn't know that.
Yeah, that they were was that actually in their mind, or was that in his mind, or was that in his memory?
I thought it was interesting that when Bruce Lee's talking about Sonny Liston and Ali, he's referring to Ali as Clay when in 1969 he's clearly established as Muhammad Ali.
You're 100% correct. Matter of fact, from 1964 on, he was Muhammad Ali. After he beat Liston is when he said, I'm Muhammad Ali. So when anyone would call Muhammad Ali Clay, it was done as an insult. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. And he would fucking say, when guys that he would, leading up to a fight, would keep calling him Clay during the fight. And I think it might have even been Floyd Patterson. He was just fucking slicing him up in the ring going, say my name. say my fucking name, right?
He did that to Ernie Terrell. Ernie Terrell's like, he's like, I think the line was his mama called him Clay.
Yeah.
I'm gonna call you Clay, and Ali just.
So what
lost
was? So here's the point. What's the purpose of that? That these guys don't fucking get that. You know what I mean? Like these guys are ignorant of that. I don't know. Now, I thought there was tons of beautiful fucking scenes shot.
Yeah.
I really liked the stuff at the Spawn Ranch where he went in to check on the guy and the guy was yelling, "Fuck you," because this is what
Yeah.
happens when you try to help people
Yeah.
in real life, and he didn't take it personal.
Yeah.
But if you've ever checked in on an older person,
Yeah,
they
I
give
love that
you
moment.
shit. They're not appreciative.
Yeah. Steven in Philly.
Hey guys, yeah, I mean, I agree with a lot of the points that you're saying. The good parts, Leo was fantastic. I also forgot how much Tarantino loves driving sequences. That part of it was so good for me. Like, just all the driving scenes were so beautifully shot. The part that I agree with you, like, they built up Sharon Tate so much where I kind of took it as like, you know, like we're supposed to care about her. And I thought the actress that did the job was like amazing in it.
Yeah, she was great.
Really made you care.
Mhm.
But then there was no payoff with like the murder, right? Like, so why are we caring? She's saved. Okay, great.
She had no idea that any of this was going down. She just heard, hey, her neighbors had a weird. I mean, it was a very strange choice to make.
Yeah.
That's
I
all.
did have that send up though, because I did go back and watch Inglourious Bastards, and like at the beginning of that movie, they have a little subtitle that's "Once Upon a Time in Nazi Germany," and so I think that's what he was intending. Like, this is definitely going to be a recreation of history.
I get that, but what are his fantasies? If you have a fantasy, you know what I mean? There's a reason to your fantasies, right? If you have a fantasy that you're going to win Game 7 of the World Series, I get it.
Yeah.
But if you're going to have a fantasy that Game 7 gets rained out and then a bomb gets dropped so we don't finish the World Series, I don't understand that fantasy.
Right.
I think it's your job to explain to us. And I get more why you would expect that these guys who signed up for World War II to be the guys who got to kill all the Nazis and Hitler. That's a little boy's fantasy. I get it. I don't understand this fantasy. I don't know what you're trying to say. Are you trying to say that the studio system was better in the 60s than the independent scene and stuff in the 70s? I'll go fucking film for film with you, because all the guys who made good movies in the 60s were the ones who flourished during the 70s. You know, if you went to Warren Beatty or even Coppola, who got, you know what I mean? Like, literally things got better. I don't know what your fucking point is, dude.
I also, like, anyone who loved it, I would be interested, like, did you love the dialogue? Because to me, that's a huge part of a great Tarantino movie, and I just didn't feel like, oh, I remembered this and that, and
Can I tell you what I loved more than all? This is the LA that I always wanted to live in. The late 60s, early 70s LA, when the music business had been there, when independent film was starting, when, you know, the store was starting. Like, that whole era seems so romantic to me. You take a look at the highways, they weren't packed yet. He's able to drive around. You know what I mean? You could really cruise that area, and it was just...
And you could rent gorgeous houses, you know, and it was relatively affordable.
What did Neil Diamond, the other song? LA's fine, the sun shines most of the time.
Oh, God.
Palm trees grow and the rents are low. That was the whole fucking thing.
Yeah.
So I totally get you'd want to be there when, you know, the mamas and papas were running out and Crosby, Stills and Nash were getting together. I love that era. And it looked like it to me. It looked like the era that, you know, I've always fantasized about. I thought he killed it with that.
Yeah.
Killed it. I just don't know what he was doing with these guys.
Yeah.
They didn't learn anything. They did not learn a fucking thing. Neither did we. There wasn't. I mean, here's the thing that got to me. Brad Pitt is loyal to, basically, he's a bitch. You know what I mean? go home and fix my fucking thing.
TV antenna.
Right. And Brad Pitt's going off, oh, I'll be okay. It gives him a chance to go see Sharon fucking Tate and feel like a big shot, like he mattered. But he wasn't there for his buddy.
No.
You know what I mean? He didn't go to the hospital with his buddy,
Right.
which is what you do.
Yeah.
He offered, but was like, no, go ahead, I'm fine. The dude's fucking tripping. He's got a fucking wound in his leg. Go and check on him. Just hang out with him.
Yeah.
Just go, hey, wasn't that fucking crazy? Here was the other thing. What was the purpose of Leo's wife that he brought back from Italy?
The Italian,
Obviously, they weren't going to stay together.
No.
All she represented was baggage. And what does he do? He turns on the guy who's been living with him for 5 years. Hey, I'm not going to be able to afford you anymore.
Yeah, he was getting the boot
You're
the next
out.
day.
Very, very weird.
Yeah. Yeah, there were a lot of I mean, I felt the direction that it was moving as the movie started winding down, and I could feel that this was not going to be wrapped up in a way. Like I was already getting a sense of that. Because I wasn't, it wasn't like I was sitting there completely unhappy with it or bored during a good portion of it. But if you don't have payoff, or your payoff is so confusing and purposeless, it kind of changes the whole feel of the film.
I think his next film, he should kill Son of Sam before Sam leaves the house.
Okay, I would like that.
But by the way, have your dog kill Son of Sam. That you trained, that all you do is click, and he knows exactly where to bite on people.
Yeah, that is true. Like, you didn't get a fight scene. You got, like, kind of a gory attack scene.
You get a gory attack scene, and then he takes a woman and just shatters, like literally beats her fucking head down to it's just a stub at the end of her neck.
Yeah,
and by the way, he doesn't get Manson.
Yeah, so the Manson family's still out there.
Yeah.
Yeah. They're still doing their thing.
Fucking dirty hippies.
Alex.
He's supposed to be Steven Stills.
Alex in Baltimore.
Hey, I was just wanted to say that I don't know if we can look at Tarantino the same way anymore. He clearly is going off in different directions. Like, he wants to really do a Star Trek movie, and now they're talking about he wants to do a horror movie. I mean,
he claims he's only going to make one more movie.
Yeah.
Yeah,
you know what I
this
mean?
was 9.
And I'll put his career against most people's in terms of being entertaining.
Absolutely. Like,
You know?
I'm also talking about as somebody who's given a lifetime of entertainment.
Right.
Yeah, 100%. But yeah, I mean, I think as far as that goes, I think I have been interested in the ways that he has changed film to film and the things that he was doing. I thought his last film was fascinating and beautiful and totally different than anything like his that you've ever seen. I mean, especially just in tone and like visual beauty. I was like, man, this dude is really.
Yeah, and that's because you saw it on the big 70 millimeter. It doesn't fucking translate to TV.
Yeah.
I watched it on
And then
TV.
you're stuck with that story, which
maybe that was a big difference.
Whatever.
Yeah.
Kind of disbelievable. I mean, you talk about a guy there that was just, and I made him suck my big black dick. Like, where's this?
Right.
Shocking.
Is that the worst thing that can be imagined? Yeah, let's just jump back into it.
Yeah, I think. Well, I mean, what was your feelings about the performances?
I mean, I'm not surprised to see the two leads be great.
Yeah.
I mean, these are the guys that if you go over the last 25 years, they've probably, there's nobody that's probably done as much as them. I think Brad Pitt's literally an acting genius.
Yeah.
Leo is known as maybe the smartest fucking person in Hollywood. I've been watching this kid since he was a kid, and he was fucking great. You know what I mean? Like, everyone's going, oh, Leo was great. Leo was great when he was fucking 13, 14 years old.
Yeah.
He's fucking great.
Yeah.
You know,
just
he's
is.
a natural.
Also, I want to throw in Timothy Olyphant was fantastic in it. I love that dude so much.
He's also great. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? He's also every time you see him, he's got a real ease acting. It really was like a weird kind of Valley of the Dolls of guys. You know what I mean? Like this was really some of the best looking, best actors.
Oh yeah. And then
all
like
lined up together.
I feel like you've got those, those two, Timothy Olyphant, who I've always loved, and then you throw in that little dreamboat Emil Hirsch. I mean, that's a pretty good looking cast.
Not to
Sexy.
mention Tex Watkins, who
Oh, God, yeah.
was a very attractive bad guy. I don't know who that dude is. I'm sure he's from some, vampire movie or something. But he was great.
He was really, really good.
Matter of fact, I loved all the girls. I loved the girl Pussy, who
Pussycat?
was that was the Manson girl. She was really charming and charismatic, and I'm kind of like,
the little Fanning, I can't remember her name. She's the other Fanning.
oh, she played Squeaky, right?
Oh,
Dakota.
yeah.
Dakota?
Okay.
I'm talking about Pussycat, the girl that he picked up on the street and that
Oh,
laid on
yes,
his lap.
yeah. She was great too.
She was great. But wouldn't that have been, she didn't show up at the house, so we don't know what happened to her.
Why didn't? That's another thing that bugged me. Why wasn't she one of the people in the car? Why wasn't that?
That was weird. Also, I assumed Brad Pitt killed his wife. I figured that, he did kill her.
Yeah, you got no other reason to think it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And so I figured, why wouldn't he sleep with Pussycat? I figured he was a scumbag. Why wouldn't he sleep with her? Just for the hell of it.
I think we were supposed to believe that his wife deserved to die for nagging.
Yeah.
I really do.
Yeah, I mean, there was. Not that this is new in any way for Tarantino as far as like things that he plays with, but there was quite a bit of female punishment. This is just something that I think he plays with a lot.
He digs a little
Yeah,
bit.
yeah.
Yeah.
Along with the bare feet, which now,
He's got to just be doing
Yeah, now
I
it's
want
like-
them to talk about it.
Yeah, he's like, I'll throw a couple Dougies in there for you guys to chit chat about.
Like multiple.
I like how
multiple
he was
scenes.
trying to like outdo himself because he's like, these are gonna be dirty as hell, and like
shoved in your face.
huge. Like you see it on the big screen, and it's just like two dirty giant feet.
Slammed up against the car window.
Mike in New Jersey.
Yes, hello.
Hey, what's up, Mike?
Yes, I really, really love this movie, Once Upon a Time in the West. Once Upon a Time in Hollywood. I just thought it was great. I love the, I think it's kind of a hangout film where you just watch the beginning of the movie and really not a lot of plot and just taking in the atmosphere. It looked wonderful. It was funny, and I love how creepy the George Bond sequence that when
it was great.
It visits the ranch. That was creepy stuff with the music.
When those
squeaky film.
Yeah, when those girls were walking down the thing.
Yeah.
I thought that was fascinating. I thought it was also weird that they all just sat and watched while he beat up that other guy and basically tortured the guy who put a hole in his fucking tire.
Yeah.
And no one, run for Tex. But it was the girls that Charlie sent out to kill people.
Yes.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Why weren't they like, fuck,
Yeah, they
if they
should've
would
been-
all came at him with knives, he's dead.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I thought they were going to do that.
We all did.
Yeah, it did seem like it was going there.
You're like, he's not getting out of here.
Yeah, I assumed it was just going to be either sleep with her, then get killed, but I didn't think to live and not sleep with her.
I am literally embarrassed that I didn't think that the alternate fucking history, which to me was so weird, but the second the girl went back for the knife and pulled away, I'm like, no one pulled away.
Yeah.
Right.
Because if you grew up in my generation, this was the book we all read and talked about, then the movie we all talked about. This was a thing that had been discussed, and there was different. When Bugliosi that was the prosecutor against Manson, right?
Yeah.
Years ago, when I was at XM, he was around with a fucking giant JFK book to prove that JFK was just killed by one. I'm like, yeah, bring him in. I just wanted to see the guy who prosecuted
Yeah.
tell your fucking JFK story. But I was really thinking, so for that weirdness to take place, I think it totally fucking threw me off. I'm willing to admit that I took it too fucking heavy. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But I finally got to know what it feels like to go, what the fuck are you doing? Telling this story. And you know what I mean? Like, I know everyone acts like, hey, it's a movie. It doesn't have to fucking be true. I get it. But if you're setting it up like it's true, it should be true. You know what I mean?
Or at least there's a reason that you change it. I mean, I just don't buy into the like, hey guys, it's supposed to be a fairy tale. I saw that a lot online. People were being like, anybody who has a problem with this, they say it's a fairy tale. Most movies are fairy tales. Most movies are fiction.
Right.
It doesn't mean it gets to not make sense, or you get to do things that are not warranted, or you get to do things that don't have payoff. And I'm not saying payoff you like, just payoff. Like things that, one thing leads to the next, and
Right.
this is why it happens. And I just don't think I don't think it went down that way.
Yeah, and the whole build-up to the movie was, hey, it's going to be released on the 50th anniversary of the murder. So you're assuming this is going to be his take on those murders.
And then, I made sure I didn't read anything about it.
Same.
And then afterwards, I read a bunch of stuff. Sharon Tate's family is offended, and Bruce Lee's family is offended.
So they're furious.
There was the same thing that made me go, what the fuck is this? Now, you remember when the Facebook movie came out?
Yeah. That
Social Network.
I fucking watched that like, oh, this is the way Facebook was born. It wasn't that long after Facebook was born.
No.
And then when I found out, oh, they lied about this, they literally lied about another thing. I'm like, well, why are you telling a movie that way? Do you not have the skills, or just make a movie that reminds you of the Facebook people, but it isn't them?
Right.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Just like, oh, if it's based on a true story, change their fucking names.
Yeah, that's very true. If all of this had just been completely fiction,
Right.
and we just met a Hollywood actress,
Right.
who knew people, and she was the next door neighbor,
Yeah.
one, you would be going, well, why was she in the movie? Because then there's no payoff, right?
Right.
If you just change the name, there's no payoff. There's no reason that you spend time with this character. She never has anything to do with it. And then, at the very least, you don't have people going, well, why would you change it?
Right. For those guys to have been like, oh, that's Sharon Tate, and not thought to themselves, oh, I'd like to fuck Sharon Tate. You know what I mean? They didn't even have that. They're not even like this fucking like, oh, I live next door to Anne Margaret or Raquel Welch.
Right.
I would love to have an affair.
Well, that was
they didn't even have an interest on that level.
Another thing that I was like, I wasn't sure if we were going in a homoerotic storyline.
Right.
That, I mean, it was there was clearly a bromance. I mean, that's what it's about. But I was like, oh, when he's like, how old are you? Like, here's why that didn't ring true. Nobody in that time gave a shit about people's fucking age. You know what I mean? It would be a bragging thing to have sex with like a 16-year-old or something. That would not be as much of a moral problem as it is today.
If you would have called the cops, they would have been like, why are you down there in your bare feet and fucking little shorts on?
Exactly.
You don't want to get banged.
100%. And so I thought the real reason he was doing it is we were going to find out that he had a sexual attraction or romantic connection to Leo. And so I was like, oh, maybe that's where this is going.
But
And
he
it
was
didn't.
actually
So it just-
flirting.
Yes.
He was flirting all the way up until
And
it was time. And she's literally like, you want me to blow you? Which, again, people would have been like, hey, I didn't fuck her. She blew me.
Right. That's why I just didn't buy the,
That was
you're
really
very
strange.
young.
Yeah.
Which was a way, I guess, to make this like character moral, which like nothing about him is moral. He probably killed his wife. He's a violent person. Why do we have to be like, hey, at least he didn't have sex with that very sexy 16-year-old?
I guess that was the wink at 2019.
Right.
Like, hey,
Yeah.
I know this bothers you guys.
Yes, you're right. I mean, he's driving around. He's waving her into the car. He's,
Driving way out of his way.
Yeah.
He's
being
driving up into the
flirtatious.
fucking hills somewhere.
Fucking ranch.
I don't get it. I don't understand it.
Chris, what do you give the movie now?
I'm gonna give it I'm gonna give it a D.
Wow.
What?
You went from A. Did we ruin the movie?
No.
We ruined the movie for
And you know
him.
what? I'm gonna thank both of you for
No.
that. No.
That wasn't the purpose
No.
of this.
Fuck this movie. Why the fuck wasn't Manson on screen for more than fucking 7 seconds?
I know why.
What the fuck? Why
Wait,
put
he
Manson
looked
in it?
nothing like Manson. That guy
Much
was
more like I don't know, good looking, but like less crazy.
in the fucking in the Helter Skelter book, right? They acted like Manson had so much charisma that he was staring at the fucking lawyer, and the lawyer's watch stopped. That's how fucking evil
Right.
Manson was supposed to be. This guy just walks up like a regular fucking guy. Oh, is that where Terry's living now?
Yeah.
Thank you.
All right, bye.
Bye.
I'll remember this house for later. Yeah, it was. I mean, I am shocked, Chris, that now you're lower than me.
No,
I
fuck
mean-
this one. Also, not enough Steve McQueen. I love that little part of Steve McQueen. I want to see
How
him
long
more.
before you know that Steve McQueen was Billions? Because I
It took
was
a
like,
while.
what are they doing there? I thought it was one of these fake things where they put Steve McQueen's face
Yeah,
on someone.
like a deep fake, but in a movie that's real.
And then when Steve McQueen was just telling, he was acting like a girl.
It's a gossip.
Like he likes her, but she likes him.
Yeah.
Yet they still. I'm like, that's kind of girly for Steve McQueen.
Yeah, it really is. Sean in Texas. Sean.
I think that there was a plot to this film. It's just a lot more subtle than you
Well,
imagine.
give it to us. I'm willing to learn.
Okay, I think it's a story about a guy who's been typecast. When he meets with Pacino, he doesn't meet understanding what Pacino's about to do. And I'm not Pacino. I'm sorry, Lift, the man with Lift. But he gets absolutely destroyed in one conversation, and the rest of the movie is about him trying to fit in. And it isn't until he comes back that he breaks through.
Mm-hmm. But why the Sharon Tate? Why the Manson stuff?
Sure, I think because if you look at the way Tate is portrayed in there, she's like the number one in the it crowd, and represents everything he wants. He wants to
but she
be
was.
vital and important.
Yeah,
She wasn't. She really wasn't.
She was more like you said. It was a B-list.
Yeah, I mean the biggest Hollywood thing she did was marry the guy who just had, a movie come out that, I mean, it wasn't going to be. Nobody was looking at him as the only big director at the time. But here's the thing: those spaghetti westerns, he was also still just playing the same kind of cowboy, and then some cheap knockoff. So I don't think that he grew. Also, why have the little girl?
That was fucking very disturbing as he's having these deep conversations with the little girl. That came out of fucking
And
nowhere.
another time, it's like one of those girls that's like magic. You see this?
Yeah.
Right. She's precocious.
What's from the book?
Like a manic pixie dream girl. Is that what you mean?
Yeah, no, from the book Catcher in the Rye, the little sister.
Oh, yeah, Phoebe.
Is way
Yeah.
smart beyond her years.
Yeah. There's always the precocious kid who has way too much wisdom, and they're like a human head weighs 8 pounds.
Yeah.
I mean, they always are like, say, you know what
Yeah.
I mean? Like, so I did have a problem, although that was among the scenes that I did like of Leo's performance. I definitely get what you're saying about her being just like a precocious, unnecessary, almost like Deus Ex Machina type thing where she comes down from the heavens and like, here's a little wisdom for you. But I did love Leo's state of just almost tears to tears for an entire film. Like his nerves
Yeah, he was
and like
very
his
hurt.
tension was like right there. Like at any given time, you're like, well, this dude's gonna burst into tears. He can't keep it. And also, him coming into the trailer. I mean, that scene in the trailer after
losing his shit.
he's blowing it, I thought was fantastic.
I thought Al Pacino was totally wasted, and probably should have been someone else in there besides Al Pacino.
There was some
Like
people
to save
that
on the budget there.
yeah, there was some people that were offended that he played an agent stereotype, but that stereotype exists. to this
Stereotype
day.
for a reason.
Yeah. My wife and I sat down over the weekend and enjoyed.
Frank in Memphis. Frank.
Hey, I loved it, and I can't
I can't believe that you guys are as confused about the things that you say you're confused about. I don't think, the original script called for Brad Pitt to annihilate Bruce Lee, and again, as a previous caller mentioned, it was to show you the level that Cliff was operating on, and I do believe that.
But in the meantime, he couldn't even afford a home. He couldn't take care of himself.
He was a fucking drifter weirdo.
Matters.
He was a bitch. He literally was this younger bad actor's bitch.
Yeah.
Right. And okay. But I don't think you're taking the same, you wouldn't look at Tarantino's other movies through the same prism you're looking at this one through, and I don't get it.
Here's the thing.
Inglourious Basterds.
We've been with it. Well, you're acting like I loved Inglourious Basterds. There's things that I really liked about it and things that I didn't. I don't, there's no reason to give Tarantino a free pass. He's great. There's no reason to give Scorsese or Coppola. These people are fucking great.
Yeah, and that's kind of a given. I mean, we're sitting here having this conversation because I'm pretty sure everyone on this show is obsessed with
Tarantino.
Yes. Obsessed with his movies, and we quote them and discuss them at length all the time. So, you're approaching it from, a bunch of fans for sure.
Yeah, I think so. But then, again, I don't think anybody would look through the same prism at any of the other movies and ask the same questions. If you ask him why he killed Hitler in Glorious Bastards,
I didn't like that he. I mean, I said that to begin with. I didn't enjoy that.
The choices. I'm not talking about I'm talking about the choice to do it. And you guys are looking for a deeper meaning. He wrote down. He was 3/4 through the script. He wrote down, "Just fucking kill him." Put about his best.
I understand. This is why I said I think he's become a better, more beautiful director and a worse writer. But by the way, this is the way that if you love basketball, it's the way you look at LeBron James. You don't go, hey, LeBron James was still the best guy on the court. You're like, he didn't fucking hustle in those last 2 plays.
Right.
Maybe he scored 47, but he didn't make the winning shot. It's the way you look at greatness.
I think, and it's also the way you are giving respect for somebody's work is to actually pay attention to it rather than be a fanatic.
And Frank, I get that people treat the Green Lantern of, come on, it's all make-believe. But there's got to be some people that you look at and expect them to fucking play above the rim. Yeah. There's got to be.
I don't know. I don't think we need to hold Quentin to that standard.
Of course we do.
No, we should.
He's good enough.
Pure fantasy. He's pure fantasy, and he's always been. Always.
Yes, he is. But the fantasy made a certain amount of sense, and the people that, the payoffs were there.
Yeah.
I don't think the payoffs were in this movie.
Even fantasies have stakes. They have consequences. You create what those consequences are in your world, right? I don't care if it's, if you're talking about this movie, you're talking about fucking Harry Potter, you still have to go, here's the world we establish. It's a different kind of world than you're used to, but here's what happens. You can't just go, oh, this person that we spent a lot of time with didn't matter. And this thing, it was a violent scene, but what does it say about that person?
And here's the thing. Brad Pitt's character, whether he was a fucking wife killer or not, matters.
Yeah.
Whether you even think at the back of your head, maybe he fucking is a wife killer.
Yeah.
That makes him, suddenly he's to go back to fucking True Romance. Is he Gandolfini? You know what I mean? Is he a fucking guy who gets off?
And again, we're like, oh, well, let's establish this. He's a badass, or let's establish this. He's operating on a higher level. He shoots his wife point blank on a boat. Somebody who didn't have defense. That's a villain. That's not really hey, he's a badass, cool guy. Right. That's just, those are two different things.
And supposedly he's a war hero. What war? World War II? I mean, he's fucking 50-some years old in 1969.
That's a good point. What wars?
So what are we supposed to believe? He's a John Wayne character who's stuck in the late 60s hippie thing, and You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, what's the whole fucking?
The whole character made no sense. I mean, he did some cool shit, but it made no sense.
You gave this.
gave
No,
it-
but
hey, you gave it the
Ron, I
highest
went in that
grade.
fucking movie. I came out. I wasn't thinking about it. And thank God you two fucking. No, but I feel like an idiot for even giving it.
No, Chris, come on. I like
fuck
that you
it.
enjoyed it. It's
I
your
like
favorite
that you
movie.
enjoyed it too.
No.
It's your favorite out of all the Tarantino
No,
movies.
definitely not.
I
Ron.
told you that there were things that were enjoyable about it.
No.
Did you think that the random Kurt Russell narrator was a little lazy because it was
Yes.
just complete exposition in like 2 random parts?
Yeah. Yeah, I think that's I don't know. That's probably true.
But he found out later. You're
What?
like, what?
The fuck,
What
where
are
the
you
fuck did
doing
this
back
come from?
here?
Yeah. Chris in Texas. Chris, you're on Bennington.
Hey, I saw it, was completely disappointed. I wasn't disappointed that it was unlike other Tarantino movies because it was exactly what I expected. I just think, pure and simple, the story wasn't very good.
Yeah, I agree.
Yeah.
You know, it almost seemed like True Detective Season 2, where they just, by a certain time, had to get a story out. I know that's not the case, you know, but like...
I will
almost
say
like
this,
he had
though.
a
I
deadline,
like
that's
True
when he come up with it.
Detective Season 2.
I like it better than season 1. At least the ending was better. That's why the fucking second season is better.
I like one better because of Reggie Ledoux.
I like Vince Vaughn a lot.
Yeah, he's great.
That was the last Vince Vaughn thing
And the
in like
first
22 years. That I liked.
it was a long time.
What did you guys think of the soundtrack? Because that's always a really big thing.
You know,
I was surprised with so much Paul Revere in the Raiders.
yeah.
There was a lot more Paul Revere in the Raiders than I expected.
It actually didn't go in a direction I would have assumed that Tarantino would go. I thought that it was like a little bit more on the nose than he goes, and then doing covers of like super popular songs. There was like a lot of covers, right?
There were some covers that, you know, instead of using the Doors, he
But I
used
feel like-
Jose Feliciano.
Yeah, I mean, you've got some, you know, normally you would go, oh man, what the fuck was that
what's that
song?
song?
I
Yeah.
got to look that up. How have I never heard that before? But you've got like Mrs. Robinson, and you know, I just felt like it was a little bit more popular than he normally
I think you
does.
also got to remember this. He was trying to capture a vibe of a LA top 40 station.
I get that totally.
And that would sound very LA top 40.
But he left the pop out then. He left the bubblegum out. That was a very big bubblegum era.
That would have been interesting, right?
1969.
To
Yeah.
just do all the bubblegum stuff.
Probably couldn't clear it. Maybe
Oh,
that.
look, now he's making.
I don't
you
know.
what I mean? He's making defenses for
This is
him.
bullshit. It's a
Yeah.
D-rated movie at best. No, it's heading towards an F too.
Chris, please don't be like that.
No, I have to be because I can't fucking say something's good when it's not.
Chris, I feel like it's been ruined for you. I
No,
was
it has. This movie blows. I did kind of like the scene where they're sitting on the couch watching his TV show and they're making stupid little comments about dudes they know in the
Yeah, I like that.
I
too.
like that a lot.
That's the kind of
when
shit
it
I
was
love.
on FBI, like, oh shit, here's
Yeah.
stuff. But that was like really. I mean, first of all, it was as far away from believable because you weren't going to take a guy who was a TV star and have him appear in 3 different series in like a week and a half. But it didn't bother me. But the whole thing was he doesn't know who's coming up on him now.
Right.
And then it goes like this, oh, good rollout or whatever. That was pretty cool. I hated that he only had 1 6-pack of beer, though. What the fuck are you
makes
doing
no
here?
sense.
Yeah.
I mean, I hang around with Earl fucking drinking Douglas, you know?
He's fucking booze brain. Fucking loves bottles of liquor to that.
Danny in New Jersey. Danny, you're on Bennington.
Hey guys.
Hey.
Yeah.
Hey guys, how you doing?
Good.
I saw the movie Friday night. I actually enjoyed it. I'm a huge Tarantino fan, but I did think it was his most bipolar script. He paid these fringe homages to Sergio Leone and almost like Jack Palance and what have you. But my thought on it, I came away with 2 things. One is he actually showed how superficial actors are, and that he portrayed stuntmen as the real heroes of movie making, the real tough guys.
Yeah.
And I agree that I did not like the ending because he built up everything about the Manson murders and then just changed it at the end. And my thought, actually, because I didn't hear about Sharon Tate's family, I did hear about Bruce Lee's family, and I agree because they made him look like a pumpkin. But I walked away thinking, I wonder if Polanski saw that, because he would not been caught in the hot tub and Sharon Tate never been killed.
I don't think they would have stayed married.
Maybe that's what
I mean?
that's what it was.
joking.
Yeah.
Is he actually, his fantasy was to save Polanski?
Yeah.
Maybe that's what his actual fantasy. Does that make you like it more,
Makes
Chris?
you like it less.
Maybe if he would have came in and killed the little girl that Polanski raped, it would have been a better movie for everybody.
Like, in a way, he saved her.
Yeah.
Mike in Canada.
Hey guys, Ron, you sound like $1 million, buddy.
Hey, buddy.
So, I have a totally different opinion of the movie than you guys do. To me, it's an allegory on Quentin Tarantino's whole life as a filmmaker. You know, the aged star, getting a redemption arc, kind of like John Travolta and Sam Jackson in Pulp Fiction. You have all the hallmarks of his, you know, acting, all the actors doing kind of their own depression, you know, with the scene in the trailer, how he's freaking out. That was brilliant. The scene with the girl who was kind of the method actor that we've kind of said happened in the 70s and 80s.
Yeah, but why wasn't she a woman? Why was she a little girl? Who was she? Jodie Foster is the only person maybe could have been on that level.
Olyphant.
Well, maybe his touchstone is Jodie Foster.
But also this thing about, you know, saving actors or stuntmen being the real men. I mean, really, if you think about it, stuntmen is just jackass. You know, it's just guys who fucking just threw their bodies off of stuff.
And could drive well.
I guess, yes.
That's one
There
of
was
the
a lot of driving stunts.
Yeah, you guys are always pushing on the whole Manson arc as that's the theme of the movie. And to me, that wasn't the theme at all.
But then
why put it in? That's a fucking huge mistake.
Well, I will give you my reason why it's in there to begin with. It's, to me, when the Manson thing happened, I'm 42 years old, so to me, obviously, I wasn't born when that happened. It was the beginning of reality TV, how that views became more popular than the movies at the time.
No, that's not true. It was it was 15, 20 years away from reality TV. So, and there has always been popular murders, you know? There always is, you know, you go all the way back in history, and it's always the same thing that people pay attention to, you know, a murder in a good neighborhood. You know what I mean? No one...
So fair enough, but that started then.
No,
then
it
you
didn't.
got all the serial killer obsession at that time as well, right? And then the 80s.
No, fucking Fatty Arbuckle killed that lady, right?
Yeah.
And then people were fucking obsessed with that.
But he killed her, Chris, in the most loving way possible, in the vagina. Oh, speaking of Fatty Arbuckle, did you see this casting thing that went out? So a casting call went out, I think in England. No overweight children and no redheaded children. And it fucking blew up on them.
Here's the thing that I think is interesting. This has always been the way people cast. The problem is writing it down.
Yes.
I mean, isn't anytime you cast a movie, isn't it just like no ugly chicks to play the wife? Yeah, it's kind of understood, but you don't write that shit down.
Yeah.
I mean, this
you
is just
see them, you say, "Oh, thank you. We'll get in touch with you." It takes 8 seconds.
I mean, it
to
really
bring
does.
a person in. Okay, we got the picture of you. We know what we're looking for. We'll get in touch. I mean, they do this in New York and L.A.
Yes,
all the time.
All the time, and people probably have some great auditions who don't get cast for things.
We have friends that are so fucking great that go out almost every day. And they get a call back about once a year, and they're like, "I'm fucking doing it. It's happened."
Yeah.
You know, voiceover people we know that you would think they'd be the first people that you would take. It's such a fucking hard thing. I don't know why, if you're fat or redheaded, you're not like, hopefully they need a fat or redheaded kid. If that, you know. I'm telling you right now, most of my favorite movies have a fat kid in it.
Oh yeah.
Hell yeah.
I'm trying to think of the R Gang thing, and this is pre-Spanky, pre-Sporky, Porky, when there was a guy that said, "Call me Chubsy Ubsy," and he had to have the ugliest fucking face. He was like, he had a crush on Miss Crabtree, and this kid has haunted me forever. Norman, there he is. Just hit Norman, Chris. Right
Norman.
there. Yeah. Turn it up. Look at that face.
Don't call me Norman. Call me Chubsy Ubsy.
Oh my
You can't take
goodness.
your eyes off this
Oh
fucking.
my god, I love how much his face is just condensed into one little part of his head, and then there's just so much extra face on the outside.
He looks like the kid from Billy Madison whose face gets.
You gotta cherish it. You gotta cherish it.
Who doesn't want a fat kid in a movie?
Yeah, I mean, the fat kids are the best. They're always
They're
the
the
best
best.
kid.
Yeah. And a redheaded kid is great too.
Yeah, I mean, the best case scenario is if you can combine the two. I mean, you got a star at this point.
Yeah.
It's like a fat redhead.
That's the Sandlot. Fucking.
Exactly.
That
That
kid's still
kid.
around too, right?
I think so. Yeah, he's still.
I
got
just
stuff.
think I saw him over the weekend promoting something.
They've been doing like Sandlot anniversary stuff this year, a lot of it.
But yeah, look, this kid was perfect.
Yeah, he had everything.
He had everything.
Find
he
out
was
his
red.
name and then like just fucking see if he's done something in the last couple of days.
He was fat. He was redhead, and he was covered in freckles. I mean, I'm sure they must have put that in. Best case scenario, we get a fat redhead kid.
Right, Patrick Renna, the Great Hambino.
Randy.
He's in Glow.
Thank you.
Okay, there you
Thank
go. Randy in Northern Illinois. Randy.
Hey, I enjoyed the movie a lot, and I go to movies just kind of just hang out for whatever period of time, and I don't get into analyzing all the details of it. So for me, it was just a really enjoyable 3 hours kind of interest.
Yeah, I mean that's the thing. There's some people who don't care what happens in a movie. You know what I mean? That's why it's almost like when people go, "Well, I don't know why people have to talk about food." You know what I mean? You just eat it and then shit it out, and that's the end.
Yeah.
That's how they look at movies.
And believe me, when I
Yeah.
go to McDonald's, I feel the same way.
Right.
I'm like, look, I don't want to, I just need to eat this food.
Right.
And there's definitely movies and shows that you put on that are the McDonald's of that.
Right. And that's most movies now.
Right.
But also, let's suppose you have a favorite restaurant and they bring you a dish and you're like, I don't get it. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
It's not even like I'm saying I don't like it. I went back to this movie. I've seen it twice already and I still didn't get it.
Yeah.
And the second time I see it, I found out just before the movie started, my friend was fucking murdered.
Yeah.
And I sat and watched the movie. I was with your mom. I didn't even say anything to her because I didn't want to just lean over,
Yeah.
whisper it to her, and
have
then
the-
watch a fucking murderous
Yeah.
movie.
Yeah.
So, this week has been a lot about violent movies, violent video games, guns. To act like, hey, this stuff doesn't need to be discussed is like saying I don't want to be part of.
Well, yeah.
You
I
know?
mean, I had the same thing as I learned of Dave's murder just before I went, and it was coming off of the most violent weekend with all these
Right.
horrible shootings, and I went to a violent movie. That was my choice, so I'm not saying I'm above it, but I did find watching the audience fascinating that they had at least the same weekend I did by all of these mass shootings, and they were like cheering and like laughing and clapping and like shaking the seats with joy. And I was like, man, we're a weird country. I mean, we're a strange group.
Let me tell you, the first time I saw this movie, I caught it like 11 o'clock at night in somewhere outside of Buffalo or right at the outskirts of Buffalo in this giant mall. There is no one in my theater, right?
Yeah.
But me. No one in any of the other theaters, and no one was in the mall. So I watched this fucking thing.
Couldn't do that. I don't.
Weird.
Totally fucking quiet.
Yeah.
Was totally weirded out by the Sharon Tate thing. I literally felt like I don't understand what I'm even watching. I go walking through this dark mall, through the empty parking lot to totally weirded out. So I'm like, I got to see this movie again. I see it, and during that scene, right? I'm in a full theater in New York, and during that scene, I was shocked that people thought it was funny rather than kind of cathartic or whatever, but they were really like whooping it up. And I don't know whether you guys saw it that way, but I was stunned because I watched it in total silence.
Yeah.
Before.
Oh yeah, people were laughing and whooping with joy, like
During
they
that
were.
last scene?
Oh yeah, like really, really enjoying it.
And look, I enjoy violent movies. I always have since I was raised on the TV shows that they're talking about.
Yeah.
Raised on those TV shows. Would have said years ago, no. There's no, connection between violent movies. And I would actually even think this. I even might think you let off steam watching, you know what I mean? I think that's a possibility.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
I think both. But the way violence might affect some people, violence in the news, because we know there's copycat shooters. People have been walking into fucking Walmarts with guns since this happened.
Brian in Oakland. Brian.
I wanted to just hit on, I think the movie was more just about Tarantino himself. Like, he's casting himself as the heroic figure in
I would agree.
Cliff Booth or Brad Pitt's character. And he has to deal with the whiny, up and down emotions of his actor friend, DiCaprio. I forget.
Yeah.
But I really into that conclusion, or my harebrained theory or whatever, is that he shows feet in all the movies. Everyone knows that's his big kink or whatever. But when Brad Pitt's character is driving around the little, she goes, "Hey, you want me to suck your dick?" And he's like, "Whoa, well, how old are you?" And she replies, "Well, no one's ever asked me that." I think he was just kind of saying, "Look, I might be into feet, but there's a lot of other crazy shit going on in Hollywood."
I mean, and the
It was
guy
like a pat on the back.
is his best friend. Was Harvey Weinstein. Is this a thing to separate himself from Harvey Weinstein? I think he's got a good point.
Yeah.
That Tarantino is into his own fantasies. Remember this scene where Tex was taking the couple out and they were having a conversation a little bit?
Yeah.
I mean, that seemed to be nothing, right? But they mentioned that they were from Tennessee. Quentin was born in Tennessee, moved out, and I was like, is that supposed to represent an aunt or uncle or something?
Right, when they're taking them out on the ranch.
That's like, we were all close to this at one point or another.
By the way, I didn't know that the Manson family actually did that. That's fascinating
I know that
to me.
either.
You
So
guys
weird.
never read Helter Skelter?
I didn't, no.
So they kind of moved in on George Spahn and took care of him and took over some of these things, almost like employees to bring in money. And the girls would blow and fuck George. So here he was, like, this old blind man. He's like, whatever, this is fucking better than I'd be doing anywhere else.
Right.
You know what I mean? He just didn't care about it.
Right.
Didn't take it personal. And they were smart enough, if they would have killed him and stole the stuff, but instead they were just hanging there with him.
Yeah.
Charlie was having the girls take care of him, so he had the rest of this weird fucking ghost town.
Yeah.
Did you like the guy who played Tex?
Yeah, I thought he was great.
He's gonna be Elvis in the Tom Hanks Colonel movie.
Elvis Costello. Oh, I just. Hey, we got a break, Chris. I don't want to tell you guys how to do your job, but
Sorry.
this was supposed to be a 15-minute thing.
Yeah, you said it
Went
was
like an hour 40.
Yeah.
But I'm glad so many people saw the movie.
Yeah. Wow. Yeah. It was his biggest opening, I think.
And only one person said no. There was things that disappointed me. Everyone else was just like, a movie's a movie. Just let it be.
Yeah.
You know? A movie's just something not to care about.
Yeah.
No, it sucked. D.
The real loss here was Chris's rating.
It's fucking the shitter now.
I didn't mean for that to happen.
Well, no, I'm telling you, I'm glad that you guys opened my fucking eyes because this movie was not well thought out.
Vito's got. You feel the same way, Vito? I see you putting your thumb up.
Yeah.
That wasn't the purpose.
You guys turned me around. That movie's garbage. I was going to see it again, but fuck that movie. I'll never see it again in my life. If it comes on
I don't want. I look. He saw it twice.
I saw it twice. Guess what? I'm going to see it a third time.
Don't.
I have an empty spot in this because I feel like I haven't connected to Quentin. And by the way, I was a guy who liked Death Proof. what the fuck was that about? But at least like, hey, they're bringing back gearheads again. People are, that was really the Stuntman movie.
Yeah, I know.
By the way, the girl was the wife in that. The girl who was on the
of Caruso.
Yeah,
Yes. Yeah.
Aussie girl. All right, break. Back Bennington.